Hello everyone, welcome to my live stream. Today I'm working on my 2018 Halloween illustration. My initial really rough sketch is in a different sketchbook in a different room, but I know what I want to do. I just need to get the composition down. So what I've got here is this sheet I've made for myself that is scale. These are thumbnail sketch areas, and these are scaled down from the size that I am going to make it the full size. So these are the same ratio of size, these squares and these squares, and it's about 9 by 12. I'm actually getting these little kitty hairs all over everything. I'm actually making it a little bit smaller than 9 by 12 because it turns out this old book of watercolor paper, when it measured 9 by 12, it kind of ridiculously included the ring binding in that measurement. So when I cut the page out, it's actually slightly smaller than 9 by 12. So in order to keep it the same ratio so it can be scaled within the same group of image sizes, what I did was figure out the next closest size that is kind of whole numbers instead of like 8.333333 forever. The closest size I was able to find is 8.25 by 11. So a 9 by 12 would have been this big, about. Instead, it's going to actually be this big, what you see here. Since it's the same ratio, I can still use this pre-made sheet that I have. It's just a Photoshop file I print off whenever I start a new illustration project that's this size. I'm sure I won't get to using this page today, but hopefully I can start working on this one. But what I need to do first, and let's see, I need to do some more thumbnail sketches because I've only done just one really rough sketch, like a brainstorming sketch, and I need to use these guidelines I've got here and here and here to make sure that the composition is the way I want it. So these are actually measured. These lines are specifically measured to be exactly halfway and exactly a third and 2/3 of the way, because what I'm thinking is I want it to be centered. I want the main focus to be in the middle. So what I'm doing is my cat Kiba, who I always draw for Halloween, is going to be looking at his own reflection, and his reflection is going to be a skeleton. So it's like, I don't know, a magic pond or something, and what he sees is a skeleton. Because the theme I wanted to go for was skeleton this year. Because Halloween, I've done pumpkins, and I've done ghosts. So I wanted to do something different. And the next thing that came to mind was skeletons. And then I am thinking either here or here should be where the bank of the pond or whatever body of water this is should either be up here or down here. And then in the background I was just going to have like fireflies lighting up the scene. So I've done the rule of thirds for this part, but I still want it to be centered. So instead of rule of thirds for the vertical, I'm just doing in the center. So for these, at least for these little thumbnail sketches, I'm just going to eyeball it. I don't need to measure this. This is just to get a general idea. It doesn't matter if it's exactly divided up right. I'm using this gray pen. I actually wish I had my smaller one, but this one will have to work. This gray one is good because it's about the same color as a regular old graphite pencil. But if I need to erase, and I might not need to because I've got so many little squares to work with, but if I need to erase, these lines won't go away if I erase what I've sketched. And it's good that they're gray rather than black, because then they don't. If you have black lines and then you draw over them with gray, like graphite, the black is what you see more. And these are just guidelines. I need to see my sketch more. So using gray ink for these lines helps them not take over the sketch. So I'm just going to start here. And these sketches are just to figure out composition, see if I want the bank to be lower or higher. And of course I'm going to be doing my cat in my chibi style. That's what I've done for my other Halloween illustrations. So like the problem with, but yeah, the reflection. So reflections in water, and I'm going to have to look up a reference image of what water does to distort. You know, like ripples will distort a reflection, so you know it's kind of wobbly. I want to look up and see exactly how that looks in general. Something's being reflected in the water. But something else is, since the water is actually flat like this, so Kiba here in his normal state, that's another thing I need to do, is make sure I've got, he's a black cat, so he needs to have a light behind him. This is supposed to be like a nighttime or a dusk kind of scene. If he's got black or something dark behind him, you won't be able to see him. Anyway, what I'm thinking is the bank probably does need to be lower at this lower line, because the viewer will be looking at Kiba this way, up and down, but the water is this way, so I think that it will, the image will spread out like perspective, because it definitely shouldn't be like an exact, it shouldn't just be like a mirror image of this, although mirror is kind of a misleading because here's the reflection here. But yeah, I think that what I was already thinking is how I'll do this. Have the bank at the lower, what are these lines called? Composition lines? Let's do another sketch. Okay, so the bank should definitely be down here. Now, what should the background be? So I'm just going to do a really rough line for the bank to start with. And here's Kiba's head. I'm going to center Kiba's head right at this top. I want to say crossroads, but that's not what it is. Where these two lines intersection, that's where I'm going to put Kiba's head. Right there. Black cat's really dark. So maybe if I frame him with some silhouettes of trees and bushes. Just going to do a really quick shading. This is looking really dark and ominous, but I wanted to be nighttime, but I'm going to do fireflies, so it's going to be a little more whimsical and magical and not like horrifying. I don't want to do a skeleton to be like horrible gory skeleton or something like that. I want it to be more fun and playful. So if I do these bushes, maybe should the trees be even darker? So then the reflection should also maybe a little lighter, but it should also show this stuff. And then here's the skeleton, and it will be white. And I guess that should also mean that this water is a little darker, because the skeleton... I guess the sky needs to be mid-tone. Let me make a note of that. I need the sky to be a mid-tone so that when it's reflected in the water, both Kiba, who is a black cat, so he'll have his black fur, and his skeleton reflection, which will be white because it's bones, it needs to be a mid-range color, the sky, so that both the black and the white will show up on it. I wonder if I should get out an actual like black marker so I can make it more, or black pen. Where's my size 8? That would probably be good. I guess this is 8. I can't see anything on the top, but it's the only one like that, and none of the other ones say 8. I'll make a note about this too. Kiba black. Skeleton white. This kind of planning and brainstorming and revising is what I always do before I move on to the final sketching and creating the final piece in an illustration. This is one of the things I learned from going to university art courses, and it's the most important thing I learned. And that's why I really wanted to go back, and I got accepted back to Boise State to finish my degree, because it's not really like, yeah, I want the actual degree to show that I did it as proof of all the work I did, but more important than that is just the kind of learning you get from being in a classroom environment with people who actually know what they're doing, and they're looking at you live, and they're giving you live feedback. You're like right in the middle of a drawing, and they're like, hey, how about trying to do more of this with your work, or try to use this technique instead, or whatever. You just don't get that from self-teaching and reading books and stuff, and it's just so valuable. At least to me, the way I learned is way better than any other way I've learned to do stuff. Like ever since I started creating, and not just illustrations, but any sort of artwork. These planning stages. Because all the classes I took, none of them were illustration yet. Those are the higher level classes. I didn't get that far. That's what I'm going to be starting on in spring, is the actual illustration classes. So even just with regular drawings, fine art type of things, using this planning method is extremely helpful. I think the only pieces I've made that I still like, that are like years old, are ones where I use this way of planning them. There's not really anything that has stood the test of time that I still like of my own work, where I just sort of made it without thinking about it, without planning it. So now I'm thinking about this shrubbery and stuff. If I need to make the background a mid-tone, should the shrubbery and stuff also be a mid-tone? And it all sort of fades away. Or should it be darker? Comparing this one, let me make this key be darker than this one. See, getting all this stuff done before you actually start on the final piece, then you don't have to worry about it. You just go ahead and make it because you already have a plan. It's almost like you're creating your own paint by number. Oh, about the bank. Make the bank really dark. What's that like? What if I make the bank... Oops, wrong pen. Ah, I have so many pens. Put this one way out of the way. Okay, if I make the bank black as well, what's that like? Oh, it really doesn't like drawing on graphite. Maybe what I need to do is try one where divide up another one. So when I get to these bigger sketches, that's when I'll measure again for drawing these lines. But for these, just do it by hand. It's not that big of a deal. Okay, what I'm thinking now is maybe I need to make, instead of looking straight on, maybe I should be looking kind of down at it. So it's like Kiva's like this, looking down. And the bank is kind of, I guess it needs to come up so it can move himself. And then it's not like the same horizon. Where should the horizon be? The horizon's up here. Oh, that might work. That's kind of cute. I'll show off his little bobtail. I don't think I've ever gotten to show that off in a piece before. Kiba is a minx. He only has a little tiny stub of a tail. If I do that, yeah, that's not going to work as well. I mean, it does show off Kiba's tail cutely, but then for the skeleton, it's like it would have to be divided half and half for this to work. But I don't like that as much for... No, I don't like that. Well, you never know until you try it. That's why this is so important. Try lots of different things. Even if you end up going with your original idea in the first place, at least you made sure that there weren't any other options that you liked better. If I have the bank like I had it before, it will sort of reflect down. Water meets here. I mean, I guess I should still have, maybe have some sort of horizon line, I think. And maybe it won't be flat, maybe it'll be just like bushes in the background. Still pretty much, I think it needs to have Kiba straight on. Maybe instead of sitting, he'll be like standing. That's what I like doing. I did a sketch earlier. One of the earliest sketches I did. It was like standing, like surprised looking. There's like bushes here. I definitely gotta look up some reference image of like a pond or something so I can see what the plant life is like. If I just draw that without a reference, it's not gonna be as believable. I don't like it as much. I wonder if you'd even be able to see his legs if he's standing up. Maybe they'd be in the middle. Let me draw this with a pen. A black ink pen. I think maybe I need to like get Kiba and put him on a table and take a picture. Then I would know this angle that I'm thinking of. Okay, so he's gonna be black. I think this line is a good idea. Maybe I'll color this in black so I can really get a good idea of what I'm seeing here. So in this sketch, I'm sort of coloring in here. Kiba is black, and then I've got these corners. They're supposed to be trees, but they're like a silhouette. So they're super dark too. I don't know if I like just feels kind of meaningless having these corner blobs being really dark. If I make the bank really dark, where the land meets the water, that feels a little more visually meaningful because it seems to be like pointing, almost like arrows, pointing to the point where Kiba and his skeleton reflection are meeting. So maybe it needs to be let me draw it on this one too. Draw this in black. Oops, this is the wrong pen. This isn't dark enough. This is gray. Okay, the ink is black. If you hear that meowing, it's Bear. He hears me in here, in my room, but he's not allowed in here, though I let him in yesterday because it was too cute. All the kitties came in my room. They like going where they're not allowed. That must just be a mammal thing. You tell them not to do something and it makes them want to do it even more. It doesn't just work on humans. So where's a tiny eraser? Oh, in case you're wondering, this brace is on my thumb because yesterday I smashed my thumb in the car door. So it's not broken, but it was a nasty cut. Didn't need stitches, but it just wouldn't stop bleeding because it was right on my knuckle. It was like right on this line, like right here. Like, just chopped. Wouldn't stop bleeding. So it wasn't just like blah 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 or something, but it was just constantly oozing blood out. So this is keeping my thumb from bending, which really helps with keeping it from bleeding. And it's also helping with the pain because it does still hurt and it's like really awkward doing anything with this hand, which sucks because I think the word is polydextrous. I'm left-handed for some things and I'm right-handed for other things. So it's like I was brushing my teeth last night and I brushed my teeth with this hand, but I always cup the water to rinse my mouth with this hand, but obviously I'm not going to do that because I don't want to get this wet. So it was like really, really weird. You don't become aware of, like, I had to grab a cereal bowl out like this, like, because I couldn't use my thumb. So yeah, that's why I've got this big thing on here. I'm super glad that it's not my drawing hand, so I can keep working. Typing has been annoying today because I'm like, I can't hit the space bar. Not because it hurts or anything, just I can't do it with this. I'm like, type, space, space. And it gets my fingers all wrong, so I keep typing wrong letters too because I'm not used to having to do my hand like that. So there's the story for today. Smash my thumb. I was super distracted, and I think that's why it happened. There was a bunch of little things happening, and the final straw was as I was getting out of my car, it gave me a stack of electricity, like zap, and then the next second my thumb was smashed. And I was like so distracted that at first I didn't know what had happened, other than I just reactively grabbed my thumb with my other fingers, and I was suddenly in so much pain that I was like extremely nauseous, and I was like, oh, like I didn't know what was happening for a second. Thank goodness I had this emergency kit in the back of my car, because I was by myself driving. I was going to pick up my art from the fair, and it's like a complete emergency kit with like jumper cables and little flags that you put if you're like broken down, or flares, all kinds of stuff. I also had a little first aid kit, so I was able to put a band-aid on my finger. I did the whole thing, unlocking my trunk and everything, all single-handedly, because I did not want to let go of this, because after a second of trying to figure out what the heck was going on, I realized there's this wet splat on my red car, and I'm like, how did that get on there? And it was like a horizontal splat, and I'm like, how did my car get wet? And then I like looked at my hand, and I was like, no, that's not my own blood. I did not want to open it until I got a band-aid out and ready after I saw that, because that much blood splattered out from just smashing it. I didn't want it to be like gushing everywhere. Luckily it wasn't so bad that the band-aid couldn't handle it. Like, once I put the band-aid on it, it was able to stop it from bleeding until I took it off when I got to the urgent care center, because of course I'm going to the urgent care for that, man. I am not risking that. I had them do x-rays and stuff and make sure that I didn't break my finger. But actually, all in all, it was really a good result, because I didn't even need stitches, I didn't need glue for the cut, just regular antibiotic ointment and a normal band-aid. And just this thing is to keep it from moving, and that's it. It could have been much worse. I could have needed stitches, I could have broken it, I could have needed a tetanus shot. That was great. I have still 2 years before I need a new tetanus shot, so it's like, of all the things of all the levels of badness, this is like the least level. So it's like silver lining. If I must have something like that happen, I would rather it be like this, the way it ended up yesterday. It doesn't even hurt that much today, which is good. I was hoping that it would feel better by today, but the doctor warned me that it'll probably take a couple weeks before it's completely non-painful. It did hurt every time I had to roll over in bed, because I'm always moving and changing position when I sleep. Yeah, I like this sort of trifecta of dark areas. So I think that's how I'll do it. As far as the white, gray, and black. But the only other thing that I want to figure out is, so maybe if I connect the trees in the background, this is sort of like a frame around Kiba. So these will be reflected as well. So this needs to be mid-tone gray. This needs to be gray. This needs to be gray. 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 Maybe what I need to do is have 4 ranges. So maybe if I make this dark gray, not quite black, but much darker than the sky. Make the foliage. Of course, there's going to be fireflies all over this, adding little bits of light here and there. If I do it like that. I do like that better than this one. Because this one, with there only being this darkest color in the 4 corners, just feels kind of random. Especially since you just won't see as much of this dark on the bottom reflection, because the reflection part is only at the bottom third of the page. Yeah, like this one. This is what I will go with. Making notes on my, what do you call that, tone? Sometimes I just don't have my art vocabulary. Anyway, 2 grays, black and white. So that means the only white thing, but the fireflies will be white too. So the bank and Kiba will be black. All the background stuff, all the non-animated, or what is the word? Meaning like it moves. Is this animated? Anyway, the trees and everything, sky, water, reflection on the water, I guess. That'll all be dark or light gray. The only white stuff will be the skeleton and little fireflies. Come on. Dang pen doesn't like to write on graphite. Come on. Fireflies. I just want to do little dots to remind myself to keep the fireflies in mind, and they should be reflected too. Guess maybe they could come up sort of like a U shape. That way it will continue that, what is it called? A psychic line, I think, where things that don't connect still make your eye move towards one point. So the point that it's all pointing at is where Kiba and the skeleton meet, where their reflection begins and where the reality begins. I should probably write that down. So that'll be the bank. what do we call that? Bushes? Bushes. And fireflies. So three different elements all pointing to this part where they meet. Just wonder where. Maybe it doesn't matter too much if I depict a horizon line. So I need pretty much this whole background area to be this light gray. Maybe just do it around the halfway point. Have the horizon there. Yeah, that doesn't seem too bad. I definitely need to look up what reflections in water look like. So I can draw a realistic bank to this pond. Also get the way the water will be distorting the reflection because of just, natural ripples. It moves the light around so that once it is reflected into the viewer's eye, it's not the same as up there. And I guess it's good to include that effect in the water and not just have like glass smooth water, because the reflection is actually quite different in the water because it's a skeleton, not a fully flesh and blood and fur cat. I'll draw those little whiskies. Little whiskies. Oh, that would be good too. Have them fill in this light gray area by making sure to include those little whiskies. Yay, I think we're getting somewhere. I think that this is good enough for these little thumbnail sketches. Along here, like there's a little smudge on here. I haven't even started on this, and there's already a dang smudge. Here and here. How does this happen? There. Just clean it up a little bit. Okay, now I am going to measure. Thought about just including these composition lines as part of the printout, but the problem is I don't always just use the rule of thirds, so it might be a waste if that's not what I'm going for. It's like the last illustration I completed, I actually divided it into 7, or was it 5? Anyway, it was way more than thirds, so it wouldn't have worked there, and then here we go, I'm on my next one. I'm still not quite doing the rule of thirds, so just need to leave them as squares and divide them up manually. Luckily, this is exactly 3 inches, so that's easy. Rule of thirds, 3 inches. I'm going to do it all the way across in case I need to do a second sketch. Hitting my camera with my head. And good job, printer. You printed this exactly to size. It's kind of annoying when you print something and you're like, okay, it's going to be this big. It's either larger or smaller than you needed it. course, it's better if it's just a little larger, because then you can just cut it down if that's what you're going to do anyway. But if it's too small, you have to print it out again. Now, how big is this? 4 inches, perfect. So, let's do it at the 2-inch mark. And I'll do this one too, even though I might not even use it. I may as well while I'm at it. This is why math is important, at least basic math. Use basic math all the time, for cooking, for art, everything. Arithmetic. I was even thinking recently about an argument that a lot of people have, like, oh, everybody just uses calculators now, they don't know how to do anything, whatever. I don't think that's true, because to use a calculator, you have to know what you're doing. You have to know what you're trying to get. Even if you're not crunching the numbers in your own head, you still know what you're doing when you add one number to another number. You know the process. You know what the result means, even if you're not getting that from, you know, your own brain power without any additional tools or something. So I don't see any problem at all with using calculators, as long as you understand why you're doing what you're doing, why you're putting these numbers and these symbols into the calculator. So I was thinking that because I'm always dividing up, like I had to do some math to do these, but I used the calculator to do it and then just wrote it down so I would remember. It doesn't really make a difference in the end result. What I need doesn't make a difference if I do it in my own head or if I use a calculator to figure out that exact number. But that's probably why in my school experience they didn't allow calculators, like, all through grade school. But then in a certain point in algebra, and especially in calculus, you not only are allowed to use a calculator, you have to have a calculator, a scientific calculator. So yeah, if we do the horizon line back here, I'm gonna have to draw his head bigger. Well, what am I doing? My pencil has an eraser. And I even bought a pack of replacement erasers when I was in Oregon a couple weekends ago. I love these Blackwing pencils. I don't know if it's because they just look really cool, or maybe I'm being subconsciously influenced by the sort of like fandom surrounding a Palomino Blackwing. Like when I was in Portland and I was at Kinokuniya, my favorite store, and I love to get art supplies as well as Japanese books and stuff. When I saw these eraser refills, a little pack of them, like, I can't use my thumb, like this big. I went to the next section, you know, like 2 feet over, and I was looking through that, and then a group of, I don't know, teenagers or maybe early 20s came over and were looking at the different, you know, pencils and pens and stuff, and they like exclaimed when they noticed that there was a whole section for the Blackwing stuff, because there wasn't just erasers, there was the actual pencils, I think 3 different types, and they were like, oh, so-and-so, look, it's Blackwing pencils, and the guy that they were talking to was like, oh, yeah, oh, those are the best, like, like, dang, dude, I'd heard that there was a big like fan following of the Blackwing, because the first time I ever got one of these was in an Art Snacks box, and it talked about it on the menu when it described the product. But that's the first time in real life that I've just randomly encountered that like fandom. But I know what they were talking about. Like, smiled to myself as they were all excited over pencils. Like, yes, I understand. I understand your excitement, young people. Not that I'm old, but they were definitely younger than me. Draw Kiwi's little cute little legs. This pencil, I love it because it's this cool gradient. It's a special edition. I think it was special edition some famous guitar brand. And that's what this was based off of, is a guitar. Like Fender or something. But the like main one I like because this has this texture for this outside part of the pencil. Is sort of like that same really smooth, I don't know, typical pencil texture. Kind of glossy, but the main Blackwing pencil that has a black body, it's like velvety when you hold it. It's like a velvety texture. Not like it's fuzzy, but it's just like this nice, soft, almost feels like you could be able to squish the pencil, but you can't. It's still a normal pencil. I really love using that one too. Just because of that, I don't think I noticed a difference in the actual graphite or anything. I think it's all just the appearance. The weight feels good, like having this metal ferrule on the end with the eraser. It makes it a little bit, let me see. Yeah, it's like really heavy on the back end, but something about that feels really good. I think it's like having that little tiny bit of extra weight helps it sit in your hand. I don't know. It just feels good. Okay, so for Kiwa's expression, I want him to look kind of surprised. Oh, that looks angry. I don't want him to look angry. Erase these eyes. I don't know how much of this sketch I'm going to be able to do, actually, because I really do need to look up what the reflections look like. I got my skeleton reference out. This awesome book I found. Hope you can... There. So it's got drawings of animal skeletons. The book is just called Anatomy Drawing School Animal. It's got this whole thing for the cats. It actually only has, let me see, 5 sections, I think. Yeah. Horse, dog, cat, pig, and cow. So, oh, excuse me. I was kind of dreading looking up cat skeleton references, because usually I just go to Google image search and put in what I need. So if I need to know what zinnias look like, I just type zinnia in Google image search, and there I go. I can see what they're supposed to look like, what kind of color varieties they come in, that kind of stuff. But I've learned that with animals especially, even if you just type in the animal name, there's a good chance you're going to get some graphic images, or just images that are like depressing and you don't want to see. For instance, when I did the sun, the moon, and the steers earlier this month, I just searched this type of cow that I wanted to do because the horns were the shape that I wanted for the silhouette of a cow that I was doing. I didn't just want to draw a random cow-like silhouette. I wanted it to be based off of real life. But just searching that breed of cow, no other search terms, it still brought up pictures of them being hunted and stuff, and like dead ones, and like I did not want to see that. That's not what I wanted to see. I just wanted to know what they look like, not people killing them. So when I was like thinking of searching the words cat skeleton, I'm like, oh god, I'm gonna have to brave some horrible, horrible, horrible images, I'm sure, in order to just find like more academic imagery where I just want to know how the bones fit together and how, you know, what bones there are and what they look like. But then I remembered I was going through my personal library looking for a different book, and that jogged my memory about this one, and I've never actually even used it for anything. Like I've, you know, browsed through it and be like, oh yeah, cool, that's interesting, but I've never actually used it for reference before. And now I'm super glad that I have it, because I don't remember when I bought it, but it was a long time ago. So now I don't have to look at any graphic images. I've got this nice reference, and at least for my purposes, it's good enough. Even if like there's something that's technically off with these drawings, like maybe it's missing a rib or something like that, it doesn't matter for what I'm doing it for, because it's going to be all out of proportion and stuff anyway. So if it's like missing a single bone, if someone complains about that, they're missing the point of the illustration, because I'm not trying to illustrate a perfect cat skeleton like this. I just want to make a believable cat skeleton. But I need to know how reflections look, because I can't just draw this. I can't just like chibify this and then draw it exactly like this, because it's going to be distorted because of the water. So I'm imagining that it'll probably spread out this way due to the angle of the water, rather than being, like I was saying earlier, rather than being straight up and down. The water is coming out like this. And then of course the way ripples work, but I don't even know. I haven't looked up a reference image of that yet. So I think that's my next step, actually. I can't put this clip on because of my thumb. So even though I got this out, dang it, I keep getting little mess ups on here. I'm like scratching it with something. No, keep my book in good condition. Wonder if it's my thumb thing. Oh well, I can still see the picture. I had this all clipped down so that I could look at this without the page flipping or the book closing. I'll put this back. No. I love this thing. I'll show you this. It's this cool thing. These are little magnets. I don't know if you can see it that well. And I have it so that it stands the book straight up and down like this so that I can look at it. And the magnets help hold it up. So sometimes I print out reference material, and it's really easy for this to hold it up with the magnets, or you can set a book on it like this. Usually it stays open. Stay open. Ah. Anyway. Yeah, I think that I'm gonna call my stream good here. This is good for today. I'm gonna try to continue on with this, but I need to do some more research, and that's too boring to stream. I only wanted this to be an hour anyway, and we're pretty much exactly on the hour mark. So I'll call it good for today. Not sure if I'll be back tomorrow, but I'll be back at least next week. So until then, thank you for watching.